What's up, guys? Ben here, bringing you another video. Massive news dropped today in regards to the future of Scump over on OpTic. Let's talk about it, what it means for his legacy moving forward and the rest of the team. So if you haven't seen yet, Scump had a video called This Is Goodbye that premiered just after the most recent episode of The Process, which recapped in the season that also premiered today. We're recording this on Friday. Really cool announced video, basically saying that this is his last year of competing. There's some really good production. I can kind of tell by the stuff hanging around, all the other stuff. They did this at Esports Stadium Arlington. A really cool and awesome video. So if you haven't seen it, go check it out. But I think a couple of important things to unpack here. I think for Scump, I think it's been coming for a while that he was probably going to announce his retirement here or there. Look, Scump is someone that is a massive content creator, a massive presence, one of the most engaging and sort of biggest personalities on social media and on content in regards to any player in any esport. And this man's been making probably 7 figures, if not more, per year off of esports, really since like the MLG.TV days, if not longer. So look, it was about time that eventually he was going to hang it up. And he said in a later video that he posted on Twitter, kind of explaining his reason for retiring, that he wanted to do things in the content world, that sort of the passion wasn't there. And listen, I respect that because, you know, people may respond and say, well, why didn't you do it sooner? And look, like, I think for him, he's a competitor at heart. He knows that his future, well, the minute that he goes into this content, he's going to blow up even more than he is now, be one of the biggest creators on Twitch. But he wanted to compete. He wanted to win titles, continue his legacy as a pro player, top 5 player of all time, if not higher. And so for him to stick it for one more season, I think is a great accomplishment. I also made a joke on Twitter too, if you haven't seen it, kind of comparing this to the Mariano Rivera sort of goodbye tour that Mariano, you don't know who he is. He was a closer for the New York Yankees, Hall of Famer in Cooperstown, in the Baseball Hall of Fame. Like on his sort of final season, people were giving him gifts and doing tribute videos. I think we're gonna get the same thing with Scump at everywhere they go this year in the CDL. Probably starting with Major 1 in Raleigh. So I think then it's a question of sort of what does this mean for the rest of OpTic? And I think there's probably 2 ways to look at it. Let's talk about what it means for this season and then seasons beyond that. So I think for this season, this is a bit of a weird situation, I think, for the team. This is keeping in mind that they were originally going to make changes, dropping Ender and Dashi for rumored to be attached in Hydra, and then they walked that back. And in the process video that released today, they talked about this further and said, you know, they talked as a team. Everybody got in a call, so their differences, and they decided that the best path forward was to run it back. My concern, though, with the team, and I think also unfairly, by the way, when I say this, is that the fan base is going to put too much pressure on these guys to really make that final year some magical year where they win a bunch of ships and champs. So my plea to like every OpTic fan out there and every COD fan out there is let these guys do their team thing. Look, if players are not playing well, I'm not saying don't criticize them, but I don't want to see some dum-dums on Twitter putting stupid things in their mentions saying, oh, you're costing Scump's legacy and all that stuff. It's not helpful, and you're not really going to help them on what is a very emotional and I think monumental journey that they're going to face as a team this season, which, by the way, they're a very good squad. As we've said before on this channel, and I've said on the flank, like they are and should be a top 3 team all season and are very likely going to win some kind of title this year. So I think long-term is where the more interesting conversation goes. So let me give you 2 sides of that. So the outside of OpTic side is a lot of players are coming off the back end of 1+1 deals, with some players who are signing new deals or new extensions now able to take advantage of sort of the 3-year maximum contract you can now sign in the CDL. But if you're a player who thinks that you may end up on OpTic next season, this presents an interesting dilemma. If you're then on what we would call an expiring contract based the last year of your contract, if say, you know, an organization that you're currently on comes to you and wants you to sign a 3-year deal with more money, do you take that deal, understanding then if you want to make a move to OpTic down the line, they're going to have to buy you out? Or do you stick it on your contract and then become a free agent in the offseason? And then at that point, you're free to negotiate with whoever. This dynamic will be interesting. And I'm curious to see, there are a couple of players like Insight, like Pred, just to give some examples of players that are coming potentially on the last year of their deals. Now, it's possible that players have signed new contracts, and the way that the CDL's website works is unclear, sort of the players sign these deals. So we'll have to do a little bit of digging around and see if we get this information for you as the season progresses. Then the other side to it too is it's not necessarily a situation potentially where Scump retires and they're just going to pick up one person to play with. Dashi, Illy, and Shotzi. Look, like, I don't think it's a secret again, and I'm not trying to put pressure on this team, that this team had its issues last season, and I know, yes, some of that comes down to the Inter situation. So there is a likelihood that if Scump retires and they move on from Illy and Dashi throughout the season, or or maybe at the end of the season, it really might be Shotzi's team to build with 3 new players. So a lot up in the air, I think, for OpTic beyond this season and their future, but it's impossible to think about it right now. I think that's pointless. Really focus on this season, starting off the season strong. They have a lot of potential and they can get it done and raise a championship banner at the end of the season. So I think that's way more important than speculation down the line. I think sort of the last sort of parting thought I have for you is less about the competitive side of things in regards to team dynamics and more about Scump's future and what it means for the CDL. Look, like it's no secret that if you look at peak viewership trends, they do line up when OpTic does play. And I think a lot of those people definitely would identify as Scump fans. So this presents kind of an interesting question, I think, to Activision and to Scump, which is, look, if he retires, I'm sure he's going to be doing a lot of content. It's going to include some streaming. And we've seen the success of co-stream. So if you're Activision and you're Scump, figuring out some combination there where Scump can activate it around Call of Duty matches or events and do it on his own stream, I think it's an interesting dynamic that those parties should discuss. It's not going to be a cheap deal. Again, we've talked about the kind of money that Seth makes. These are potentially 7-figure numbers we're talking about here. So a couple million at least. But something to consider, especially with sort of the open questions about is the CDL going to be on YouTube or Twitch? I think one thing to think about probably the next 12 to 18 months. Again, I assume at some point these conversations will probably be had later in the season, but if you're the league, you're going to want to get him doing some kind of league content and paying him. And if that's co-streams, that's great for your viewership, great for your advertisers. I think the league definitely is going to need that. I don't think viewership would like 100% tank if he was unable to come to some agreement like that. But I do think you would see a decrease again, because I think there's some hardcore Scump fans that really watch the games to see him, and I'm not sure if those people are going to translate over. And by the way, this is a challenge to other teams out there to try and now see if you can convert some of those fans who know that kind of sets run is sort of at the end of the line and get them to be fans of either other teams or other players. So yeah, I think that's really it. I'll probably have more thoughts on this. It's sort of my just quick reaction only a couple hours after watching the video. Let me know in the comments what you all think. This is really just sort of, massive news. And I think something that people were expecting for a long time, but wasn't on my end. I was expecting it this season. I thought he might, try 2 more years of this game, but let me know in the comments what you think, what OpTic should do. Do you have any additional kind of thoughts or takes around it? I'll comment if I see some good ones for you. So make sure you post those in there. As always, smash that like button if you like the content. Listen, the season's kicking off now, so we're gonna be getting content out for you every single day. A lot going on, some really cool surprises to discuss next week, so stick around for that. And as always, guys, we'll see you in the next one.